I walked into the Grand Rose Hotel's main hall, where chandeliers blazed with light, casting a golden glow over the marble floor. The violin hummed, weaving into the refined laughter of high society. Everyone thought this would be the happiest night of my life, because my husband Ethan had just been honored at the Entrepreneur of the Year awards. But in an instant, everything shattered. Right there at center stage, under hundreds of camera lenses, Ethan was holding another woman's hand. They stood together like a power couple. The host introduced her in a confident voice. "Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Carter." The crowd erupted in applause, with no one knowing the real Mrs. Carter was quietly standing at the back of the hall. And that was me. For 2 whole years he erased me from his public world. Not a single photo, not a single mention, not a single invitation to any event. He turned me into an invisible shadow, while he elevated another woman as if she were his lawful wife. In that moment, I knew I couldn't stay silent another second. And what I did next, live on television, destroyed the image Ethan had painstakingly built in just 60 seconds. Before I tell you the full revenge story that had this entire city talking for weeks, I need you to do one thing. Hit subscribe right now, because stories like this, where the underestimated woman ends up in control, won't let you look away. Tap that little bell too, so you don't miss a single moment. Trust me, you'll want to stay to the end, because the way I flipped the board didn't just change my life. It might give you a strength you never knew you had. My name is Isabella Carter. If you only looked from the outside, many would think I was living the dream any woman could want. I'm an architect who's won international awards for community projects, schools, and low-cost health centers, praised in professional journals. The small firm I built with my own 2 hands now has over 30 employees, taking on projects in major cities across the United States. I used to proudly tell my friends, every brick we lay is to build a better life for someone. And Ethan, the man I once believed was the love of my life. We met at a charity gala in New York. He appeared in a sleek black suit with a confident smile that could command a room. Ethan was an entrepreneur and financial technology founder of a startup that after only a few years had become a billion-dollar unicorn. He talked about dreams of changing the world, and I, with all the naive faith of a woman just past 30, believed we shared the same ideals. We married after a year of dating. The wedding took place at a seaside villa in Malibu, where waves crashed against the cliffs like nature's blessing. The first year of marriage felt like a fairy tale. Trips to Europe, candlelit evenings, whispered promises that I was his one and only other half. I believed it completely. People looked at us and said we were a golden couple, he the tech star, me the architect with a heart for the community. I even thought, this is fate. But there was a truth I never dared to say back then. Amid all that glamour, a silent emptiness was growing inside me. A faint intuition whispered that something was wrong, but I ignored it, telling myself I was just being paranoid. The first cracks appeared so lightly that if you weren't attentive, you'd miss them. Ethan started coming home later. He said they were networking parties, investor meetings, purely work dinners that I would find boring. At first, I believed him. I was busy with the architecture firm, often working late, so I thought he was shielding me from dull social obligations. But time after time, whenever I asked why I couldn't go along, Ethan always had an answer ready. You don't know anyone in this industry, or I don't want you to get tired. They only talk numbers. Yet on social media, I saw dazzling photos from those very events, Ethan standing beside CEOs, champagne in hand, grinning broadly. And next to him were increasingly familiar faces whom I had never once been introduced to. I began to realize in 3 years of living together, I had never met a single one of my husband's professional friends. The feeling of alienation kept growing. I asked, Are you uncomfortable introducing me to them? Ethan smiled, placing a hand on my shoulder. You worry too much. You're everything to me. But this is a different world unrelated to you. That sweet line, when listened to closely, turned out to be a dismissal. My friends wondered too. Isabella, why have we never seen you appear with Ethan in the press? At such big events? Where's the wife? I forced a smile and claimed to be busy, but inside one nagging question wouldn't stop echoing. Why was I the legal wife, hidden like a secret? In the brightly lit rooms of my firm among drawings and models, I started to feel like an outsider to my husband's life. And I didn't yet know that these doubts were only the prelude to an even crueler truth. Then she began to appear. At first, just a name that flickered through dinner conversations. Ethan mentioned Sophia, a talented intern who's passionate about tech. I didn't think much of it. His company had hundreds of employees. A new face was hardly surprising. But gradually, Sophia stopped being just an intern. In event photos, I saw her always standing near Ethan, head slightly tilted toward him, a sweet smile and eyes full of confidence. In the press, Sophia was cited as a companion on innovation projects. She was nearly 10 years younger than me, with golden hair and bright blue eyes, as if designed for glossy magazine covers and television screens. I asked Ethan, my voice trembling for reasons I didn't yet understand. How close are you and Sophia? He laughed, setting down his wine glass. Are you jealous? She's just an employee. I'm helping her build her career. Don't overthink it. I wanted to believe him, but instinct insisted something was wrong. Ethan started coming home even later, his phone often placed face down on the table, and he'd hurry out to the balcony to take calls. When I touched it, he flinched as if I'd caught him in the act. More and more, Sophia appeared everywhere in press photos, on partners' Instagram accounts, at events I was never invited to, always beside Ethan, always in the posture of the other half. I remember a late night curled at my desk, the monitor's glow on my face, when I saw a photo Ethan and Sophia sitting side by side at an intimate dinner, just the two of them. The picture had no caption, but the way they looked at each other said everything. I clenched the mouse, my heart heavy. I wanted to scream, but in the wide room only the wind slipped past the window frame. In that moment, I understood that my presence in Ethan's public world had been replaced. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window of our 20th floor apartment, looking down at endless ribbons of yellow lights, my heart filled with one question: am I truly still his wife? The next morning, I decided to do something I had once considered insane: become a detective in my own marriage. Ethan said he had a dull dinner with investors. I nodded, pretending not to suspect a thing. But when the door closed behind him, I grabbed my coat, called a cab, and quietly followed. My heart thudded as the car stopped at a luxurious French restaurant in Midtown. I sat in the shadows across the street, watching through the brightly lit window. 20 minutes later, Sophia arrived. A red dress clung to her figure, her lips curved as if the entire evening belonged to her. Ethan shot up to his feet and wrapped her in a tight embrace. The way they looked at each other left no work cover whatsoever. For 2 hours, I sat there, fingers digging into the seat, watching an unfolding nightmare. They laughed, held hands across the table. Ethan dabbed Sophia's lip with a napkin and finally helped her with her coat like a perfect gentleman. When they walked out, his arm circled her waist, and she rested her head on his shoulder, a familiar, intimate posture that hurt to see. I drove home in a daze, then hurried to bed and feigned sleep when Ethan came in at midnight. He kissed my cheek lightly. A strange perfume lingered, a scent I had never worn. The next morning, he made coffee, asked about my schedule, as if nothing had happened. I gave a thin smile, but inside a truth had taken clear shape. Ethan wasn't merely cheating. He had a public wife out there, and I was the secret being hidden away. In the days that followed, I began piecing things together. The more I dug, the clearer and crueler the truth became. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He betrayed me in the way he viewed me as a person. I found a string of articles and interviews where Ethan spoke about an amazing partner who always stands by his career. Every time the accompanying image was Sophia. At major events, the press introduced her as the girlfriend of CEO Ethan Carter. I had vanished entirely. In his public world, I had never existed. Why, the answer came when I accidentally overheard Ethan on speakerphone with a partner the phone left idling in his office. He laughed, voice full of confidence. Sophia has the perfect image for our brand. Young, captivating, media-friendly. She makes me look stronger. Another voice replied, "What about your wife?" Ethan paused for a beat, then spoke softly but loud enough for me to hear. "Isabella's smart, but she's too ordinary, an architect focused on community work. Not very photogenic for media. She doesn't do anything for my image. Ordinary. Doesn't help." Those words cut into my heart like a cold blade. The man who once promised I was everything now saw me as a burden, a wrong shade in the flashy painting he was showing the world. In an industry where reputation is the greatest asset, Ethan chose to cast aside his lawful wife simply because I didn't fit the mold he believed would take him further. Sophia, with a camera-ready smile, an on-trend figure, was his charm for elevating his career. I, with my designs for rural schools and small community funds, was just a shadow unworthy of appearing. The pain wasn't just about a betrayed love. It was a degradation of my very humanity. That day, a gold-foiled envelope lay neatly on the breakfast table. Ethan opened it in front of me, his eyes briefly lighting up before he tucked it away. I still caught the embossed words, Annual Global Tech Awards, New York Black Tie Event. It was the night that honored the most powerful figures in fintech, a nationally televised event. I asked casually, "We'll be going together, right?" Ethan smiled faintly and sipped his coffee. "Honey, it's just a boring gala. Long speeches, dry numbers. You wouldn't enjoy it. I'll just pop in and be back early." I fell silent. Deep down, I knew for certain Sophia would stride at his side that night, ready to smile for hundreds of lenses playing the perfect wife. And I, the real wife, would sit at home looking like a fool. That evening after Ethan had fallen asleep, I opened my drawer and looked at our worn marriage certificate. My name, Isabella Carter, was printed clearly there. A lawful line of ink, a lawful life, erased from his public light. A surge of strength rose in me, painful yet resolute. I knew it was time to stop being silent. No more crying alone in a luxurious apartment. No more pretending this was a misunderstanding. I would not talk privately, giving him the chance to twist the truth with sweet lies. I would step straight into the spotlight where Ethan lived, the cameras, the media, the hundreds of watching eyes, and take back my voice. The Global Tech Awards night would not just be Ethan's victory lap. It would be the night I reclaimed a wife's dignity. 3 days before the awards, I turned my apartment into a war room. If Ethan wanted to erase me from the light, I would step into it more radiant than ever. I started with the dress. Not a demure ball gown, and not the safe office style I usually wore. I chose an emerald silk gown that hugged every curve while remaining elegant and refined. That green, the color of vitality and faith, made my skin glow as if lit from within. When I tried it on, I realized this was my armor for the battle ahead. Then came hair and makeup. I called Maya a stylist who had worked with big-name stars and also my close friend from college. She listened, eyes full of empathy, then declared, "If you want the entire room to turn and look, I'll help you make that happen." The next day, Maya and her team came to my home and transformed me into the most polished version of myself. Soft waves cascading over my shoulders, luminous skin and eyes defined with a powerful bronze shimmer. But appearances weren't enough. I knew being beautifully dressed wouldn't defeat Ethan on a public stage. I needed a strategy. I dug out legal documents, our marriage certificate photos, even congratulatory cards from his family at our wedding, proof that I was the lawful wife. I packed everything into a small handbag like carrying a secret weapon. Every night before the event, I stood before the mirror rehearsing the calm smile, the opening line I'd deliver to the camera. No trembling, no tears, no cracking voice. I had to appear not as a betrayed wife, but as a successful, confident woman who knew her worth. When I sat down and looked at the emerald dress glimmering under the light, my heart pounded, but my eyes burned bright. For 2 years, Ethan had made me a shadow. But with one moment on the red carpet, I would force the whole world to see me. The awards night finally arrived. New York shone, and outside the Waldorf Hotel, hundreds of cameras waited. Limousines lined up. The red carpet stretched like a river of fire. I stepped out of the simple black car Maya arranged. The moment my heel touched the carpet, I heard the rustle of dozens of cameras pivoting. The emerald gown clung and shimmered under the flashes. A ripple of murmurs spread along the press line. "Who is she?" "Stunning. Look over there." I smiled and walked slowly, giving every lens time to capture. And then I saw them. Ethan and Sophia stood not far away, ringed by reporters. Sophia wore a white safe-cut dress, smiling sweetly while Ethan's arms circled her waist as if she were the official wife. Photographers shouted, "Mr. Carter, over here! Mrs. Carter, give us a smile! You two look perfect!" Hearing the title, Mrs. Carter bestowed on Sophia. Blood rushed to my face. My heart clenched, but my steps didn't falter. I advanced until Ethan's eyes fell on me. In that heartbeat, everything froze. His face shifted from confident to horrified in a single pulse. His smile petrified. He stared at me as if a ghost had materialized. Sophia turned slightly, her blue eyes meeting mine, and in an instant her complexion went pale. The press line began to buzz. Lenses swung toward me. I heard someone ask, "Who is she?" "A friend." The air tightened abruptly like the moment before a storm. I drew a deep breath and held a gentle, steady smile. One step more and I moved toward the live interview zone. This was the moment I'd rehearsed night after night. No turning back. I wouldn't just face Ethan. I would expose everything before millions of viewers. Right at the interview area, a female reporter held a mic, the stage lights and live TV camera trained on each star as they passed. I timed my move, heart beating fast, but my smile intact. When the previous chat ended, I stepped forward. "Excuse me, I think there's been a mistake." My voice rang out clearly. The reporter hesitated and the camera swung toward me. For a few seconds, the air fell completely silent. "What do you mean?" the reporter asked, eyes flashing with excitement. I smiled and gestured lightly toward Ethan and Sophia, who were trying to stay composed amid rising panic. "You've been calling her Mrs. Carter. Unfortunately, that isn't correct. I am Mrs. Carter, Isabella Carter, Ethan's lawful wife for the past 3 years. That woman is just playing the part." The crowd gasped. Cameras went wild. The reporter's eyes widened. "Are you saying—" That man is your husband and the woman beside him isn't his wife. Exactly. Ethan Carter is my husband. We have a marriage certificate, a shared life, and as recently as this morning, he kissed my forehead before work. Yet tonight I see him bring another woman here wearing the family heirloom wedding ring, being mistakenly addressed as his wife. A wave of chatter exploded across the carpet. A few reporters rushed in, mics thrust forward. Ethan hurried over, face flushed, his smile contorting. Sophia stood frozen, her hands visibly trembling. I looked straight into the lens, my voice low but resolute. I'm not here to cause chaos. I'm here to set the record straight. If anyone is to be called Mrs. Carter tonight, it must be me. And I will no longer accept being erased like a shadow. The words rang out crisp and clear on national live television. In that moment, I was no longer the betrayed wife. I was the central figure, the woman forcing the world to see her. Ethan tried to stay composed, a strained smile under the glare of the cameras. He whispered barely loud enough for me alone. Isabella, what are you doing? We'll talk later. I tilted my head and smiled sweetly, as if it were a term of endearment, then turned to the reporter's mic. After 2 years of being hidden, I think it's time the world knows Ethan Carter truly has a lawful wife, not a ghost cut out of every photo and event. The interview area erupted. Shutters fired in volleys. A reporter pushed closer. Mr. Carter, your wife says you publicly presented another woman as your spouse. Any comment? Ethan's mouth opened, but not a full sentence came out. Sophia Ashen tried to slip away, but was held fast by the cameras. Watching it, I felt something strange rise inside me. Not hatred, but strength. I took the mic, lowering my voice just enough for the audience to hear clearly. For 2 years, I listened to my husband say I wasn't fit to appear beside him, that my image didn't help his career. Today, I want to send a message. Women don't have to match some standard to stand next to anyone. We shine through our minds, our work, and our dignity. Applause broke from several reporters and nearby guests. I saw cameras sweep slowly toward me, capturing each calm look and every firm word. Ethan stood as if bolted to the floor. Sophia turned away, her hand shaking over her face. I finished with a line, my voice low but echoing. If anyone still wonders whether I'm fit to be here, take another look. I'm here on this red carpet, and I will never disappear again. Then I turned and walked on through a storm of flashes. At last, that room of power had to witness it. The woman once belittled had become the centerpiece. Just hours after the ceremony, social media exploded. Clips of me holding the mic, calmly asserting I am Mrs. Carter, were shared millions of times. The hashtag #RealMrsCarter hit #1 on Twitter overnight. News channels blared headlines, hidden wife flips the script on live TV. By morning, the press wasn't talking about Ethan's award anymore, only one question. Why did he hide his lawful wife for 2 years? Talk shows dissected it. PR experts weighed in, and the online community spared no criticism. From a revered, brilliant CEO, Ethan suddenly turned into a symbol of deceit and opportunism. Sophia didn't escape the storm either. Photos of her wearing the Carter family ring, standing confidently on the carpet as the lawful wife, became a joke. Brands she worked with pulled her images. On Instagram, thousands of comments flooded in, labeling her a stand-in, a cheap PR tool. As for me, what surprised me was how the media framed it. They didn't box me in as the pitiable wife, but highlighted my career, an internationally awarded architect, founder of a firm that builds community schools. Reporters called for interviews, wanting to hear my story, my views on women in the industry. While I received a respect, I'd never known, Ethan started to face direct consequences. His investors pulled out wary of brand damage. A major project was delayed indefinitely. Friends in the field kept their distance, afraid of reputational blowback. His phone stopped ringing, emails stopped pinging, and his career, once dazzling like red carpet lights, crumbled before his eyes. All within 24 hours. One public moment, one calm sentence flipped the balance of power. 6 months after that red carpet night, my life was completely different. My architecture firm, Isabella Design Studio, saw a surge of interest. I was invited to speak at international conferences on sustainable development and became a face for community housing projects. Universities asked me to share my story not only about architecture, but about the strength it takes to speak up when you're belittled. I launched a scholarship fund for young women in engineering with the motto, "No one gets to decide whether you fit the standard." And Ethan, news about him faded from the front pages. His company lost a key investor. Its valuation plunged. In a finance article, I stumbled upon a small line read, "Ethan Carter steps down as CEO." The man who thought he could erase me to rise higher was finally cast out by the very world he'd courted. Sophia stopped appearing at glittering parties. Ad deals were canceled. Her social accounts closed comments under relentless backlash. Rumor had it she'd left New York to start over elsewhere. As for me, a gentler life arrived. I learned to savor quiet mornings with a self-brewed coffee to read by the window instead of tossing in worry. I began dating Daniel, a fellow architect who has never hidden his pride in holding my hand in public. Not luxurious, not loud, simply the sincerity I'd lacked for too long. Some evenings I rewatched that old clip the moment I stood on live television and said, "If anyone still wonders whether I'm fit to be here, take another look. I'm here, and I will never disappear again." I smile. Not because of revenge, but because I found myself again. There are nights I sit alone thinking about all that happened, and I realize true revenge isn't making someone else collapse. The most beautiful revenge is when you stand up and shine with your true worth, no matter who tried to dim that light. Ethan tried to make me invisible in his glamorous world, but the very moment he erased me opened a chance for the whole world to see me. Sophia was chosen as the perfect model by social standards and appearance. But in the end, truth and self-respect are things that can't be faked or borrowed. I learned that you don't have to fit anyone's mold. You don't have to trade yourself away to become appropriate for an image someone else created. If someone asks you to shrink, to step back, to disappear so they can shine, that isn't love, it's exploitation. What made me strong wasn't the emerald dress or the applause. It was the choice choosing to step into the light instead of remaining in the shadows. Choosing to define my worth rather than letting others impose theirs. If you, the person hearing this story, have ever felt belittled, abandoned, or hidden as if your presence were something shameful, then take this as a reminder you are not anyone's secret. You deserve to be seen, respected, and loved fully. Sometimes justice doesn't come from a court or the law. It comes from the moment you dare to stand up and say, "I am here, and I will never disappear again." If you followed the story to the very end, I believe your heart trembled the way mine did in that moment. Because the truth is, none of us were born to be a shadow. If you've ever been hidden, put down, or told you're not good enough, not beautiful enough, not suitable enough, remember this: your light needs no one's permission. You have the right to step out, to speak loudly, to declare, "I am worthy." And I want you to do something right now. If my story gave you chills, hit, like so I know you're there feeling this with me. If you know a friend, a sister, Any woman who's being underestimated, share this video with her so she remembers the power has always been in her own heart. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell because we're only getting started. The stories to come where those once underestimated rise the strongest will surprise you even more. And before you go, drop A in the comments. It's not just an emoji. It's your declaration that you're choosing to stand in the light, choosing to keep your own crown steady. This isn't just Isabella's story. It's a reminder for all of us. No one has the right to erase you unless you agree to disappear. Are you ready? Your seat on the throne is still waiting.